Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the Women's Empower Network. I'm really excited to have Jody here with us this afternoon. So welcome, Jody.
Thank you, Jeannie. I am so excited to be here today. It's nice to meet you. I've been in your group for at least a year. And so it's nice to actually be in conversation with you and get to meet the founder of a group that spreads love into the world. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. That's interesting. Yeah, because we just became a year old on the 19th. So isn't that amazing? And we're already at like 6,400 women and still growing. So yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. It's all in divine timing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Well, so we could get to know you a little bit. I would love to hear a little bit about you and your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
Okay, well, it's always like hard to know where to begin because you know that every pebble led to the next pebble, right? It was like one thing that led to the other, led to the other. Maybe April of last year, I launched my book, and I think that was probably the beginning of a complete trajectory shift for me. Writing it obviously was a divinely guided opportunity for me, and it's called Radical Responsibility: The Pink and Blue Solution to Healing the Ambitious, Exhausted Soul.
Wow,
And
do you
so
have you have it with you handy?
Reachable? No, of course, that would have been way too convenient, but it is on Amazon, and so people can fetch it there if it aligns with them. It's the only book on Amazon without a title on the front. It literally is white with a pink and blue circle on the front, which to me symbolizes the presence of possibility, right? The symbolism of the circle in all indigenous cultures, right? Of the birth and the death and the beginning and the end and the potentiality of all things. And so pink and blue representing the masculine and the feminine, and ultimately not necessarily divine masculine and feminine. I explained the difference in there, but masculine energy and feminine energy. And so my journey began with this download of this way to heal burnout, overwhelm, and exhaustion. And my background is that of a public educator. And of course, I came out of public education through the COVID situation and just got to a point where I had hit a massive wall. And so between being part of a public school and coaching full time for a seminar company and running my own private studio and parenting teenagers and being on committees. And I just love to play the and game. It was like I was like attempting to, milk the marrow out of life. And in doing so, I did too much and I trashed my adrenals and got a terrible diagnosis that was going to head me down a path that I didn't want. And I made a declaration that that was not going to be my path with absolute freaking certainty. Scared my doctor a little bit actually in the moment. She's like, "Oh, right, simmer down a little bit." I was like, "Oh, hell no." Right. And decided that I was like, "What do I need to do?" And she's like, "You need to calm your nervous system." And so my journey, I think, really began in a lot of research around, I felt like I had been an athlete most of my life. And so I had studied the muscle skeletal system. I'd studied brain and behavior when my dad died because he had had a stroke. But I never really got into the nervous system and really just how it informs our actual physical experience here on this planet. Everything from our breath to, taste and touch and smell and like all of the different senses that we have are impacted by our nervous system. And so that began a journey of healing. And in doing so, I felt like I was divinely guided to this system that has helped now hundreds of women and a few men actually who came in that were just like, "What about me?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm not turning you away. Get on in here. I got you." That yeah, when putting this system into play, which originally was just a hypothesis, I was like, I think I just have an idea. Like, can we give it a shot? And the marveling of people being like, "Oh my God, that it worked." I was like, "It did?" Fantastic. and then tell me more, tell me more. And I just kept saying, tell me more. And I heard stories of, putting this system into play in my life impacted my marriage. My husband and I have a better relationship. We have a language that we use because we talk about having more pink time or more blue time, which is actually more being time versus more doing time. Right. And so like that really became the language. And so I've been invited to seminars globally now to speak on this, and I speak at teachers conferences, and in fact I'm getting to head to Edmonton just tomorrow to go work with a group in St. Albert at an educational assistance conference. And so I just feel really delighted that I get to spread this work into the world. I really feel like it's part of my dharma, and being an educator in general. And so, yeah, I think I'll begin with that. That's kind of what's gotten me on that path and in that trajectory.
Wow. So I mean, how did it come about that you just spontaneously got this urge to write this book? I mean, how did that come about?
So backing up two steps, I got that diagnosis, and what came through me first was to leave Canada. And I had this very strong pull to go to Costa Rica. And I talked to my husband and I said, I have to leave. And it gets me a little emotional because I was like, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but I'm really drawn to Costa Rica. I've never been before. I have no idea why Costa Rica. Zero reasons to go, but I would like you and our kids to come, but I know that I'm going to go regardless. So, and of course he was like, well, I'm coming. Like, what? Like, I'm definitely coming. And of course the boys were like, yeah, mom, like we're coming. And I was like, okay, right. They're teenagers. So obviously I would have found alternative opportunities for them, but we ended up moving them on to online schooling. My one son came for a while and then came back because he had a job and a girlfriend. And we just honestly just started to fall into place. That what I learned, of course, in retrospect, was Costa Rica reveres beingness. It's part of their culture. Pura vida. It's the simple life. It's about slowing down. It's about, I walk to the beach too fast and I would get called out, right? Yo, yo, Chiquita, where are you going? Right? And it was just like, slow down. And I was always so grateful, particularly to the locals and even the expat locals, right, that are now living there, that really took my husband, like my whole family, under their wing and just showed us how to be. And I remember the very first time in my life, I sat in a hammock all day and read an entire book that was written by one of my friends.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think, yeah, and I think that being, as soon as you get into that being energy, and I know that somebody watching this is really going to get this, it's when you're like floating in the pool. It's when you're in the hot tub. It's when you're staring at the campfire. It's when you're in a being space that ideas come through. It's the invitation to connect with the quantum, invitation to connect with the field, invitation to connect with God, whatever your belief is, right?
Right.
Like that's what our body does. As soon as our nervous system can get to that parasympathetic state of rest and ease, and they'll say rest and digest. You've probably heard of rest and digest, where your stomach actually goes into like, okay, now I can digest this food. I don't have to hang on to it, right?
Right.
I believe that there's a space past that I learned in Costa Rica called peace. And that's where I don't even expect, even in parasympathetic state, you expect to be interrupted. Like there's a space of being like, yeah, no, things are good. I'm good, but you're gonna like get killed, thrown into sympathetic and fight, flight, freeze mode. But when you're in peace, you're in complete surrender. And it's just like, how can we get there more often? And that's what I call pink time. And so what I realized, and this is what the hypothesis came through, and people kept going, oh my God, it's working, it's working, it's working, is that my my salary doubled working 2 days a week while I was in Costa Rica. I made my teacher salary working 2 days a week, my monthly teacher salary. And then it doubled while I was there because I believe I spent more time in a pink state. So all of these ideas and my connection with source and connection with thought was just amplified. And suddenly I was just, it came through and it was like, it started with a class. My passion is writing classes. I've designed like 48 personal development classes. And
Wow.
so I was doing that. It's like even when I want to explain something, I just design a class around it. That's my thing, the teacher in me, right? And
Right.
so I designed it first as a class, like the pink and blue theory, and I was waiting for a much cooler name to come through. I was like, come on, it's got to be called something else. But it never did. And all I got was KISS, right? Keep it simple, superstar. And it was like relate it to something that everyone can stereotype, and that is pink, feminine, blue, masculine. And I was like, okay, I can do that. Pink being, blue doing. And suddenly it was like pink, fill me up and rejuvenate, blue, take energy and use it. So it became this simple concept that just got played over and over again. And now my friends talk about, oh, I'm going to have a pink day. I'm going to have a blue day today. Or they'll send me pictures of their feet in the dirt while they're earthing or hugging a tree or out floating in the ocean, right? And they're like, Jode, I'm having some pink time. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like their biggest cheerleaders, doing a retreat at the end of, in beginning of May with a group of people, and we're getting t-shirts made that say, it must be nice, because that's what we hear. That's the culture around pink time, right? Oh, it must be nice to sit on the couch, or must be nice to sit by the fire. And on the back of the shirt, it says, it is. It's a choice. And we make it consciously, and in consciously making that choice, I healed. And so now I'm on a trajectory to support other people, particularly women, in being on a healing path as well from burnout, overwhelm, and exhaustion.
My favorite word is synchronicity.
Yes, I love
And when
that
I
too.
get to witness that, because just last month I went on a workshop, we were talking earlier about feminine, divine feminine leadership. And it's about allowing inspiration and just, your words in just being versus this external blue world that we live in.
Yeah.
It's into doing, and then you got to do some more. And we've totally ignored our pink side, and so I've talked to so many people who get sick because of it,
Oh,
because
gosh.
we're so out of balance.
And that's just our bodies trying to right us, right? We
Mhm.
want homeostasis. So it's like, all right, you're not going to sit down. I'll sit you down, right?
Right.
I'll sit you down. Right? You were talking about the divine. So I attract a lot of masculine women, right? Like very powerful masculine women who are like top CEOs, doctors, nurses, like people who are of service in humanity. And I attract them because, of course, I remember being that. Right? Like that was, I owned that. And one of my girlfriends the other day said, oh, yeah, my favorite saying is, here, God, hold my beer. I got this. Like one of the most masculine things that you can say, right? And so like egotistical. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that came out of my mouth," right? Like, here, God, hold my beer. And I was like, I'm using that from this day forward. That is like the best thing I've ever heard, because that is what we do. We get in our own way,
Yeah.
right? We're like, oh, hey, divine, like, I got this. Oh, so cutely human me. Like I'm gonna take this on, and I know better. And
Right.
and yeah, Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you know their work at all,
Yeah.
but yeah, they say you can be in the flow or you can be against the flow, right? Either way, you're going to get a result, right? So it's like I'm choosing to direct my life in the flow of the feminine. I have just found that when I get in partnership, instead of having God hold my beer, I go, just I'll hold it. Thanks. I got you. Like, how about you lead the way? And whether or not,
It's so much easier this way. When you wait for divine, for that inspiration, then you're taking inspirational action. You're not trying to force or make something happen. And I think of it as stepping into a slipstream. It just,
Oh, totally. And I've had people criticize the name of the book or even the fact that it's called Pink and Blue because they have some association to that that's super negative. And I'm like, hey, it was divinely guided to me. So I'm trusting that it was what was supposed to be. Because they're like, well, why didn't you call it like gold and silver? Or why didn't you call it like green and purple? And I'm like, you can call it whatever you want. Like, the name is less important than the act that it um
or the
that it
message.
yeah, or the message behind it. Yeah, thank you. I was going to say exemplifies. The word wouldn't come to my mind there, but it's like be the message. I if you find yourself doing too much, you will end up bluing too much, and then therefore you will get sick, right? So then you get the blues, which literally leads you into depression. So it's like all of this metaphoric work, and I can see it so clearly now that I've written it out, and now that I've played it out, and now that I've coached it out so many different times and put that lens on, I can see why I was guided that way. Yet there's still a lot of learning to do around it to keep sharing the message for sure.
It is. I remembered back in my working days, if I was feeling stressed out, I would get the message that I needed to take a stay well day, as opposed to taking a sick day, that if I didn't take the stay well day, I ended up getting sick because one way or another, I needed to slow down, So I started to learn how to honor those feelings of, I need to slow down. I need to stop and take a breath.
Girl, stay well day. I love it. And it's creating the verbiage that is honoring the reality that you want, right? Because we know that words have power. If anybody is on here, I guarantee you're into personal growth and development and or definitely know the power of language, right? And so, look into ontology for 5 minutes and know how energetically we impact our world with our words. So, well said.
No, and what comes to mind too, I was thinking about when you told your doctor that, the path that she was choosing for you, no, thank you, I don't want that one, and we don't realize the power of a declaration. I have a trademark that says we are the source, we decide, and so you decided this is not how it's going to be, and then the way became available to you, and I love that.
Yeah, it was exactly that. And my friends, it's so funny because I have so many friends that have different values and beliefs. And my friends that are very witchy, Wiccan friends, they tell me that I casted a spell that day. And it
Yes.
was like the spell was a declaration of health, right? And I've got a really good friend who does beautiful work in constellation therapy, and she said like that was an ancestral choice. Like in that moment, like my whole lineage could have went one way or another, and I was like, no, like this is the declaration can carry through generations through our DNA. And so I fully have experienced that for sure, Ginny.
It's I wish there were more stories like this,
Mhm.
where you just knew, or you just decided in that moment that this is not okay. This is not how I want my life to be. And
Mhm.
and then to go to Costa Rica with, and that your husband played along. I mean, I kudos to him, for willing to do that and go with you and experience how other cultures do slow down. I mean, we're in America and probably Canada, we're very doing countries.
Oh, I actually thought it was just an Alberta culture thing. For some reason, I had it in my head that we're a ranching community. You understand that being from Colorado. It was all about the hard work. And I'm reading an incredible book right now called Wounds to Wealth. And she talks about the wound, the money wound of hard work. And I see that in this culture all over the place. But like you, I've had the gift of being on podcasts from all over the world now. And no, it is not an Alberta culture thing at all. It is global. Like there's a global, I would almost say it's a zeitgeist around work and doing and overdoing and then wearing the badge of honor, right? Like of how hard I worked and I'm gonna, I just listened to this incredible Netflix series movie on Celine Dion, like one of my favorite singers in the world. And she gets raw and she allows them to film her having a seizure and like all these different really real things that she's going through. And at one point she says, if I can't stand, then I'll sit. And if I can't walk, then I'll crawl. But I'm gonna keep going, right? And I was like, no, no, Celine, just stop. Oh my God. All of the messages around you are telling you to just stop. Slow down. Stop, get some pink time. Like I was just like, you're missing it. I had a whole dream about it last night too. I was like, I'm looking at her entire care team and there's a physiologist yeah, no, physiotherapists on there. There's like a neurologist and a doctor and like somebody who's in charge of her stem cell therapy and like all these different things. And I'm like, where's her life coach? Who is working on her mindset? Right? So, I just kind of had that moment where I was like, we just wear this badge of like we're tearing our way through life, like we have to. And there's another way. There is another way,
And we're
you know?
coming into, and like you said, it's universal. It's that blue energy that has brought us to this point. And
Yep.
so now we need to, like a pendulum. I always think of a pendulum, that we
Yeah.
swing too far one way, it's going to come back one way or another. And so now we're bringing in that pink energy to
Mhm.
bring us more back into balance. And of course, there's going to be a whole lot of kicking and screaming and um,
And
uh,
let me be clear, too much pink, also not good.
right.
Like, otherwise, we would all be living in ashrams in like meditative space our entire existence. And that even in the ashram, they're doing blue, right? They're out scrubbing the floors and they're, being productive. And because that's the harmony piece, right? We need both.
You need both.
And we wouldn't experience life if we didn't have blue. We wouldn't have all of the experiences that we do have. So it's not blue is bad and pink is good. It's just, we need both,
Yeah,
right? And we're just
absolutely.
missing this fundamental piece of I've said to a lot of people who've said to me, I just don't, especially my CPAs right now, it's the end of quarter. So a lot of accountants and bookkeepers are like up to here,
Right.
with work. And I'm like, but it's a choice. It's a choice. We can do strategic blue so that doesn't have to be up to here right now. And maybe very much like a woodsman sharpens his axe in the middle of the day, you'd actually be more productive if you took 10 minutes in the middle of your day and meditated, went for a walk, did some earthing, hugged a tree, just were, you know,
Recharge. Yeah.
charge.
A
Yeah.
1000%. I am so with you on this. I'm so aligned with what you're saying. So I'm so excited that you're doing this in the world. This is
You.
because it's so needed. It's so, and it's not like you said, it's not like good or bad or right or wrong. And it was passed down generation by generation. It was just a belief system,
Yeah, exactly.
and it came from what they were experiencing at that time.
And then they continue to play it out because they believe it. And it becomes this, what came first, the belief system or the action or the belief system, right? And
Right.
it's like, well, you'll only know if you dare to attempt to believe something different. And that was me. I took the one quote that I lived by during that year was, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. And because I was like, I have no idea where I'm going here. Like, this is the first time. I mean, I've been pretty clairvoyant my whole life. But I started to become a little bit clairaudient, and I would just hear occasional things. And it would be like a person's name or my dad's voice, who died 5 years ago, by the way. And it would just be like this, I don't know, it felt like a path, and I finally, and I don't know if it's just my age, but I finally started listening,
Right.
right? Where I'm like, oh, maybe it's time to actually just zip it and listen to what's going on, listen to my inner knowing. And so I trusted it. And it felt like it was leading me to the next step in my evolution. And then it did. And then the book came out, and that was a massive undertaking for me as a non-writer, right? And also then I did teach English in high school, and still even then I felt like I was faking it. I'm a drama teacher. Okay, I feel like I could do anything for like an hour, right? I could act like a heart surgeon for an hour. Sure, I could pull that off. Like, sure, I could pretend to be an author for an hour, right? But then
Right.
to actually follow through on it, and have a number of people speak into it, and have their perspectives, and look at like all the writing rules and like all the things, like it was an undertaking. And then also it was mixed genres. Like, so I am a playwright, I do have that background, and so there's some script work within it, and then there's some storytelling, and then there's actually like charts and figures so that you can put it into play, right? So the book is meant to be like dog-eared and highlighted and underlined and done as a book club, and like all these different things. I had all of that in the back of my mind as I was bringing it into life and birthing it. And so, yeah, so that was like my Misagi of that year. Do you have a Misagi? Do you know what that term means?
What is the term?
Misagi. It is
No.
Jesse Schletzer, I think is how you say his last name, was the first person I heard it from. He is his wife. Um, I believe that I wish that there was people on here because they could correct me, but I think she came up with Spanx. I think she owns the company Spanx. Anyway, he's a marathon runner and very, very popular. And he does this thing every year that is bigger than himself, and it's called a Masagi. And it's like this huge goal that's so big that you have no idea how you're going to pull it off. And so that was the book for me last year. And this year it's my retreat down in Waterton. Like, it's so big that I need a team of people to make it happen. So
That's exciting.
yeah,
And
I'm
I
trying to
hope
change.
the audience is hearing this, that you do not have to know everything right now, and trust that whatever it is you call it, that it's going to guide you. You'll be guided along the way.
I had a powerful mentor tell me once that if you knew how to do it, it's not a goal, it's a task list. And I was like,
I like
ooh,
that.
right? I was
Yeah,
like, get it.
that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm like, that's true. And so now when I set out to establish a goal, I make sure I don't know how to do it.
Well, we'll
That's my
be
point in.
sure to put all the links on how you can get in touch with Jody and get her book if you're interested or want to work with her. We'll put that above this interview. And before we go today, are there any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with us?
I keep getting, just listen, like listen to yourself. I think a lot of women, we go through like trauma, right? And self-trust gets shirked, and we feel like we can't trust ourselves. But if you're willing to adopt the belief that it you're here now, and that thing happened because it was meant to happen for whatever reason, as horrible as it may have been, if you're willing to take the lessons from it, you have an opportunity to move forward with hope. And hope energy, man, based on what you shared with me, Jenny, it's what kept you with your husband for 2 years without an income coming in. Like, hope can pull you. It's so powerful. And so, come back to yourself and feel inside of self, and then make the next move from there. And if you need guidance, that's why we have other coaches and teachers in this world. And, one of the mentor coaches that I work with, every coach has a coach. I have like two at the time this time, right? That high tides rise all ships, and we can all rise together. No
That's one
problem.
of my favorite sayings. And I say that, as one woman rise, we all rise. So
Yeah,
it is a tide rises all boats. So this
I
has been
love it.
beautiful, Jody. I could spend the next
Yeah.
half an hour easy just talking away, but it's been so beautiful to have you here. And thank you so much for sharing your gift and your journey and your experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you, Jeannie. It was what a delight. What a delight. And goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening and just being you.